On this video I am going to do it a little bit otherwise, not showing that much work. As you see, I have finished my scroll, at least so far that the windings and outside of it is done. I still have work to do on the peg box, how it goes into the neck, but I do it after I glued the fingerboard. I told you about the finish of the outer volute here on the channel, and as you maybe can see, well, I think I have to bring you in here. Ta-da, ta-da. So what I'm hoping to show you is that I did not go with the channel all the way in here, but stop it around here. Light and well, I hope you understand or see. The other thing is the finish of the peg box, which is quite rough. To hold it so you can see, like, over there it's a little bit rounded and very rough. Also I left some tool marks. I mean, you can see saw cuts in Delgese scrolls and other tool marks. There are plenty on this one. You mustn't be that careful, or whatever you call it. Also on all the Delgese scrolls there's a small undercutting, so it leans that way, like going in. On the latest, like Leduc or something like that, you can see really how it looks like put a newspaper in your ear or whatever you would like to have as a picture for doing that. I also left the peg box here. I'm going to finish that after I glue the fingerboard. Speaking of the fingerboard, you know, well, first we have to measure the stop length, and on this one I know it's only 190. Measure from the nick here to the upper edge, and when you make the stop length on the neck, you know that you take these in 3 parts, and well, you divide it in 3 and you take 2 of these parts and make the stop length of the neck. But then you have an insertion in the body, so you have to put an extra like 7 millimeters or 6 millimeters on top of that. So here I do not have 130 plus these 7 millimeters. 130 is what you get when you go for 195 in body length, but since this is 5 millimeters shorter, I go with like 2 millimeters shorter, so 128 plus 7, so that's 135 from where the fingerboard and the nut has its joint here to the underside. And when you count the length of the fingerboard, you do the sort of the neck stop length, which is 128. You add 5 or 6 millimeters for the, well, say 5.5 millimeter for the upper nut, which gives you 133.5, and then you double that, so it's 270 millimeters instead of 208. Let's see here now. 133, that's 126.7 instead of 127, which is like the normal length of a fingerboard. I have taken out in the middle here where the joint to the neck. I do not want too much area here that makes the fingerboard sit very hard to the neck. This is more than enough. If you have to remove the neck by chance, then you shouldn't sort of have a trouble by having a huge area with glue. So I take out in the middle here. That means that if there is a split somewhere, it ends here, so it doesn't take larger pieces with it. Then I hollowed the inside here. So it's, well, when you buy it, it comes up to here somewhere, and then there's a hollow. But I do it a little bit more. I use a taper to go down into this. And also I, of course, have to plane this side and this side. First with a plane, and many of you make it only with a plane. I use sandpaper board, which I clamp or put in my bench over there, and I simply rock it like this and plane both sides. Then of course, you have to do this area before you glue the fingerboard, obviously. And when you glue the fingerboard, you also have to glue this area. So you put enough glue in it to really go in, so it doesn't, well, you shouldn't eat any more glue when you make the final neck setting. Also, when you glue this side, I always glue this side too, so it doesn't move at all. If you glue, put moisture on both sides, then it's stable, it doesn't move. To find where to cut this, it can be hard when the sides are not in 90 degrees angle. So I made this tool. It got a scribe line here. Took just a sharp ruler and zhit is how it says, and then I drilled some holes here. And when you put it here, then you can see the scribe line under here. And since this is 90 degrees to that line, you can actually make a straight line with it. So you see the line in these holes, and when that is in line with the outer here, then you have this in 90 degrees to that. Then I also have my 87 degree angle here, which is good for drawing this line, zip, down here. So I know where to, how to cut it, and what angle. When I'm gluing my fingerboard, I put it on here and put first clamp on, and then I take 2 rulers and check that it is hitting both the beginning of the peg box at the same distance, like here and there, and also that it finds the volutes at the same distance. So now I have to move it a little bit here, and then I adjust that, and now it's like perfect. If I had glue on, of course I glue it first. So this is what I will do. Then when I make my wear on the scroll, I take off, if you remember, I put a pencil line which sort of followed the original line out here. I put it on the paper, I glued on my piece, and now I have taken that amount of wood away. And then I also made all the way around here, since this is a very worn area. And of course I use sandpaper. I know a lot of makers say no sandpaper in my workshop, and well, I think Strad would have used sandpaper if that was invented. Of course you cannot use the same coarse sandpaper all the way, but start with this one and go down, just like you were taught in the school, if you had wood craft there. Then at the end I use this paper, not that one, which is not much more than on my thumb. This is used for varnishing, like car varnishing, when they make reconstruction of varnish. So this is extra fine on a sponge like this. And every time you sand it, you also wet it, and most of the small scratches you make are going out, and you take the next finer and finer. The finest sandpaper I use as a sandpaper is like 400 grit. This one is, I think it's 180. It doesn't say here, but it's 180. So finer and finer sandpaper is fine. Of course you can be very old time and take oh, I forgot. That what nature provides you with, all these grasses. But that is, if you enlarge it, it's not a lot of scrapers in a line. It's like, well, it's the same effect as using a sandpaper, so that's just as it is. Is it no horsetail? No. Ah, well, everyone knows it except me right now. So I will now glue this fingerboard to the neck, and I come back to you later.